A big swim, big bike, big run.
Mm-hmm. Ironman.
You're an Ironman.
Crazy.
You did
Crazy
it.
day.
It was brutal.
It was brutal.
Not supporting you, but the race was brutal.
I threw up twice.
You're incredible.
Thanks. 5 years ago, I completed an Ironman. If you've seen the thumbnail, a hell of a day. It was hot and there was a record heat wave going through the West. So it started in December of 2020. So for those of you unaware of what an Ironman is, it's a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and a 26.2 mile run. So that equates to 140.6 miles. That's a long day. I'm far from elite, so I definitely had an even longer day than an elite triathlete. So this is kind of random, but I'm working on my dad's bike because he got hit by a Vespa. It's not funny. He's okay, so it kind of is why I'm laughing, because it's so random. But his bike is fine, but I am working through that. So that's what some of the footage is that's going to be splicing in is me working on his bike. My dad started marathon running when he was 42 years old. Since then, he's done over 50 marathons. He's done quite a few ultra marathons. He's done 5 full Ironman distances. Before I signed up for Ironman Coeur, I had done 3 separate half Ironman distance, which is a 70.3. So we sign up. Actually, before that, it was, I think, in September before. I have done the half distance in Coeur d'Alene before. So I went into this knowing the time of year, knowing the weather conditions, knowing typically what's going to be happening. I've ridden the course half distance, and so I knew what we were getting into. So me and my dad, we sign up, and we start our training. So in Coeur d'Alene, the average high is 75 degrees in June 28th. That's the average is 75 degrees. And so we signed up for this knowing, okay, the course is a little bit hilly on the bike, but it's going to be beautiful, right? Where I'm at, it's 100 degrees, 90s, 95, 100. It's hot. And so we, in December, thought, as we're starting our training, we're going to be ready, and this is going to be like perfect conditions. So, when I talk to people now about Ironman, they are daunted by the distance. 140.6 miles. That's a long day. Honestly, it was a long day. The training was way worse than the day itself, right? You've 6 months of just basically a part-time job. I would, in that 6 month time, I think I rode 3,000 miles on my bike. I ran 1,000 miles running. I ran and swam and did all that, so much. It was a lot. I had one child at the time, and it was something that I just had wanted to do, seeing my dad doing that. And so I sign up without really knowing the full scale of what it takes to train for a full Ironman distance. I didn't want to just half do something and show up and be miserable. So so the training is just next level. It's a lot. So today we're not gonna have a ton of video, but we're gonna have photos, and I just want to talk through it with you. You hear a lot of people talk about, I could never run a marathon. I could never do an Ironman. I could never do, you name it. I could never do it. And growing up, seeing my dad do these endurance events, it's changed my perspective on a lot of these things. You might be watching this and saying, I could never do an Ironman, and I could never do, this or never do that. Have you tried? Maybe you don't want to do that, but have you put yourself in a position to actually try to do it? Those are 2 different things. This event made me realize we can do a lot more than we think we can do. So we road trip from home up to Idaho, And before, a few weeks out, the reports start coming out for the weather forecasts. Record heat, there's going to be a heat wave, And thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to keep doing my thing. I'm just going to keep training. Luckily, it's hot where I live. And so I'm just going to keep on going. So we get to Coeur d'Alene and it's hot. The thing I remember most about training is waking up early. Because what I didn't want this to do was take over my life. My wife and I talked about having our family and work be the number 1 and 2 priorities, and that we weren't going to make this the number 1 priority. I think there is an addiction to endurance events, and we made it really clear that we didn't want this to become an obsession. So I would wake up 3 a.m. and go on long bike rides. So midweek, what you're doing is you would have dedicated days. And so I just remember midweek, waking up at 5, and I would go out in my garage and I'd do an hour cycling. And so the midweek stuff was not long, but Saturdays and Sundays started getting really long. And the great news is I wasn't doing this alone. I was doing this with someone who has extensive endurance training. He was doing it with me side by side. And so as we're going through this together, we were going through this side by side, training together. Right, when you start a triathlon, it starts with the swim first. And so a 2.4 mile swim is no joke. I said, I'm going to save some energy. I don't want to overexert myself because it doesn't make any sense to tap myself to start with the swim. So my overall goal was to be sub 12 hours. That's what I wanted to do. That's not like elite. That's not really slow. It's kind of in the middle. So I get in the water, and the water was really nice. And the swim took me 1 hour and 25 minutes, which is about 2 minutes per 100 yards. So I get out, and then I get to go on the bike ride, which is my favorite part. I love cycling. It's wonderful. So I'll just give you an overall snapshot. 112 miles, 5,500 feet of elevation climbing. I thought I would average about 18.5 miles an hour. Maybe 19, just sort of depends. "35 miles was great. I was feeling really good. So at the Coeur d'Alene course, there is a big hill that you climb up. And I was probably at mile 40, 44 when my stomach started to hurt pretty badly. And so, I was sort of just like, what the heck, this is weird, this isn't normal. Why am I not feeling good? Long story short, pull over, throw up. Instantly in my head, I remember thinking, well, I was really pissed. I'd spent too much time, too much money, and I was mad. And I remember saying to myself, there's no way I'm stopping. Like, they can't make me stop this. There's no way. This is not, I'm not. And to throw up at mile 44 on my bike I was pissed. So I keep going. I go right down this big hill. You go through town. Then at mile 58, I get a flat tire. I have to pull over, stop, and change it. I have to climb the big mountain again. So I get through Coeur d'Alene. I get up to the base of this big climb. And it's hot. And because I threw up, I thought I need to replenish everything. I need to keep eating. I need to keep drinking. I need to get back what I lost. And so I'm climbing up this mountain. It felt like a mountain. This road, this hill. And I get to the top and I pull over to take a break because I was whooped. And at this point, I'm not thinking about other people. I'm just thinking about me. I'm thinking about, poor me, I threw up. This is terrible. I got to make sure I'm eating enough. I got to make sure I'm fueling enough. Like, I got to just replenish. I pull over, and there's a bunch of people sitting on the ground, sitting there. And a big van pulls up, and somebody gets out and says, they're dropping like flies out here. This is my third van load back. And they look at me and say, are you coming with us? And I said, no, I'm going to keep going. So I get up, I keep going. At this point, I'm really tired and I'm struggling. My pace falls back pretty good. And so the next aid station, I'm going to stop at every aid station. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to eat. I'm going to get new gels. I'm going to put ice in my shirt, the whole thing. So I go to the next aid station. I stop and wait. And because I'd slowed down so much, my dad caught me. This would have been around mile 80. And now it's turned from him doing his own race, me doing my own race, to us just finishing this thing together. So that's what we'd do. We would go aid station to aid station. We'd stop, we'd rest, we'd recover, and then we'd go to the next one. It was hot. It was hot. It never got to 109, but I think the daytime high was 105 is the official record. And we were out making sure we weren't getting sunburnt, stopping at the aid stations, filling ourselves up with ice, with Gatorade, endurance, with Martin gels, and just going. So my first half was like 18, almost 19 miles an hour. I ended up averaging 14 and a half miles an hour total for the whole 112. The goal was under 12 hours. Ironman has a cutoff of 17 hours. They'll still let you finish after, but you aren't an Ironman and you don't get medals and things if you finish after that. And we get off on the bike and we start our run. And so this is where most people will crap out and give up. Like, they get to the run and they just walk the whole thing, right? Lucky for me, I'd trained with someone who has done lots of endurance, and this is where he got to shine. We get to the halfway point, and in my brain, I'm like, we're not making it. There's no way that we're gonna make it. And so I wanna walk more and walk more and walk more, because I'm not gonna make it. There's no way I can hit the cutoff time. And I just remember my dad, hey, you need to get the fuel in you, and we're gonna keep going. We can walk for a minute, but we're not gonna keep walking. So we'd walk a little bit. All right, we gotta go. We're gonna run until we get to there. We're running until we get to that post. Then we'd run until we got the post. Then we'd stop. We'd walk. And as we're going, because of his ultra marathons, he's like, you need to have chicken broth or Pepsi or Coke or whatever you can put down is what you need to be eating right now. But I thought what the magic cure was Pepsi. I was drinking Pepsi. They didn't have Coke, unfortunately, on the course. I get to mile 14, throw up again. And so I'm like, well, I'm not making this for sure now. I'm throwing up twice. And so we keep going and I keep running and we keep doing our strategy of stopping and going. I'm not gonna finish this thing. Why? Luckily, he had a clear mind and knew, like, hey, we're gonna have at least an hour. Like, we should finish sub 16 if you do this. And so finally, chicken broth was the answer to all my problems. And finally, at some point, my dad's like, we're gonna make it. We're at mile 22, and he's like, we're gonna make it. We're making it in time. And I remember, take a right, and then you take a left down the main Coeur d'Alene road. And there's people, and it gets louder as you get closer and closer and closer. You then run to the finish line and put your hands up, and they say, Kyle, vote, you're an Ironman. Chris, vote, you're an Ironman. And it was incredible. So what endurance events look for me now? Honestly, like if it wasn't for the training, I'd be doing them all the time. With 3 boys, it's time consuming and I care more about them than I do about checking off things, you know, ultras or more Ironmans or things. But I'll get back to it someday. Now I just train to hunt and I train for life. Thanks for watching No Signal. I have a podcast. It's longer than this. It's really slow. If that sounds like something you're interested in, check a link in the description of my YouTube channel because it's written right there. If something's resonated with you, share it with a friend and hit the subscribe button. This is No Signal. Life happens when you put the phone down.